hacked to death in Half Moon Bay. A 19-year-old girl is found with her head caved in on a lonely rural road. Who killed Linda Uhlig in March 1972? Linda Diane Uhlig was born on November 12, 1952, in Colby, Clark County, Wisconsin. She was one of 7 living children at the time. Soon after graduating high school in 1970, Linda got a job at the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company in San Francisco. At the time of her death, she was living in an apartment at 528 29th Avenue in San Francisco. One of her siblings also lived in CA, while the rest, along with their parents, still lived in WI. On the afternoon of Friday, March 24, 1972, Linda, 19, cashed her paycheck of about $180 in SF, and then was expected to arrive at her brother Wilbert's home in Millbrae, San Mateo County, CA that evening. Millbrae is about 10 miles south of Linda's apartment. Linda didn't own a car, though her brother told authorities that she normally did not hitchhike. From this information, it seems that she planned to take a bus or perhaps get a ride from a friend. She was last seen alive by friends in SF that afternoon or evening. On the morning of Tuesday, March 28, 1972, the body of a then unidentified teenage girl was found by a man from Menlo Park named Ronald G. Chapman, a transient laborer. Chapman briefly left his vehicle while looking for farm work in the area when he spotted the body in the rural area 5 to 6 miles south of Half Moon Bay, San Mateo County, CA. Chapman then drove to the Half Moon Bay police station to report the body. Sheriff's deputies were called at 8:40 a.m., according to 2 sources. Other clippings state that the body was found at about 9 a.m. The body was found in a drainage ditch next to a turnoff of Purisima Creek Road. The spot on Purisima Creek Road is about 1.1 miles from the Coast Highway, i.e. California State Route 1. One clipping described the location as on Purisima Creek Road between Half Moon Bay and Hatchet Mill. Another newspaper mistakenly calls the street Purisima Canyon Road. The location of the body is about 12 miles south of Millbrae, Linda's intended location, and approximately 22.8 miles directly south of her apartment. The body was lying face down in the wooded site. Investigators estimated the body to be that of a 16 to 18-year-old white female who was slender, about 5 feet 5 inches, and had brown hair. She had no identification on her. The woman was wearing light blue denim pants with a thin Indian design down each side, a blue cotton sleeveless sweater/blouse/halter top, a brown lined suede leather jacket, a multicolored bra, red underwear, and brown leather Cuban heel cowboy boots. Linda's niece, Sue, recognized the description of the clothing found on the body that was published March 28. Sue reportedly occasionally borrowed the blue sleeveless blouse that Linda was wearing. The next day, Wilbert Uhlig, Linda's brother and Sue's father, officially identified the body as Linda's. Prior to her identification, it was determined that Linda had been dead for less than 48 hours at the time of discovery. None of the later sources, i.e., March 29, 1972 and later, mentioned this PMI estimate, only stating that Linda was last seen on Friday evening. It's possible that, after identification of the body, the PMI estimate was amended/realized to be incorrect, and that she was instead killed soon after she was last seen. However, that is speculation on my part. If Linda truly did die less than 48 hours before she was found as originally estimated, then that would mean that her death occurred sometime later than about 9 a.m. on Sunday, March 26th. If this is true, then her whereabouts between Friday evening and Sunday morning are unknown. It was determined that Linda was killed by a massive blow or blows that had caved in and/or split open the back of her head. The massive skull fracture was determined to be caused by a blunt instrument, which Ellie believed to have possibly been an axe or machete. One source skewed this finding, mistakenly reporting that her face had been bashed in. That same contemporary newspaper article stated that her face was hacked by a cutting instrument. Yet another clipping reported that she had been apparently beaten to death, which has the connotations of being beaten with fists or a club/bat instead of with a sharp instrument, but I digress. All but one of the contemporary mentions that I could find were from March 28th and 29th, 1972. The latest contemporary article, from the April 6th, 72 edition of the Half Moon Bay Review, added one fact that does not appear in any of the earlier articles. According to that source, Assistant Sheriff Stewart said the assailant attempted to decapitate the girl's body and cut it in half diagonally, apparently with a pocket knife, but the knife could not cut through the girl's spine. This article is a near word-for-word copy of the March 29, 72 Peninsula Times Tribune article on the topic, only with the above quote inserted into it. It is believed that Linda was not killed at the exact site that she was found. There was a pool of blood 30 feet away from the body, in the road turnoff where the drainage ditch runs. One of the earlier clippings from the San Mateo Times stated that the pool of blood indicated that she had been killed there and dragged to the ditch. The SF Examiner from that same day, March 28, 72, also stated that there were signs the girl had been dragged 30 feet from a lonely road and thrown into the ditch. This short clipping does not mention the pool of blood and doesn't give the name of Purisima Creek Road anywhere in it. The clippings from the following day are less clear about whether or not the other location where Linda was killed was the site of the pool of blood. According to the SF Examiner, investigators believe she was murdered elsewhere and taken to the wooded site near HMB. A pool of blood was found about 30 feet from the body. The Santa Rosa Press-Democrat states that her skull had been smashed with a sharp instrument and she had apparently been dragged from a car. It does not mention the pool of blood. It should also be noted that the SR Press-Democrat mistakenly put the discovery of the body on Monday instead of Tuesday. Lastly, the later edition of the Peninsula Times Tribune stated that Assistant Sheriff Stewart said it is believed he was slain elsewhere and her body dumped on the coast side. After Linda's body was identified, it was posited by several sources that a potential motive for her murder could have been robbery, as the $180 she was carrying with her was missing. One contemporary clipping further noted that Linda may have been sexually assaulted. No other source indicates this. Authorities at the time were also investigating a potential connection between Linda's case and the murder of Kenneth Allen Holden on January 16th of that year. Kenneth's body was found at the base of the Almaden Dam in San Jose. Like Linda, he was young, white, and had been hacked to death for seemingly no reason. For some time, Kenneth's case was attributed by some to the Death's Angels/Zebra Killers. However, he is not one of their confirmed victims, and whether or not this is still, or was at any time, believed by Ellie is unclear. Linda is listed in Robert Graysmith's book as a potential victim of the Zodiac. In that book, he misspelled her surname as Uhlig. This spelling is sometimes mistakenly repeated in online circles. According to Wikipedia, she may be included in a series of cases that Graysmith calls the astrological murders. Because of her inclusion in Graysmith's book, Linda has been brought up in Zodiac forums. In one such thread, some users have noted that Linda's murder seems a lot more similar to the MO of Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer, than the Zodiac. Kemper's confirmed killings from the early 70s began in May 1972, 2 months before Linda was murdered. Despite all of this, more than 53 years later, Linda's murder is still unsolved, and there were never any arrests in her case. Who do you think killed Linda and why? Was she the victim of a serial killer, such as Ed Kemper, the Zebra Killers, Zodiac, or the astrological murderer? Or was she the victim of a killer whose crimes haven't been tied together yet? Or perhaps she was a victim of an opportunity and killed for her money? Or could it have been someone she knows? And was she killed soon after she was last seen? And why was she in Half Moon Bay?